Hi all, in this video I'll be explaining something in C# known as namespaces. A namespace is a way of grouping classes. Actually, they can be used for more than just classes, but we'll cover that some other time. Now let's start by showing two circles. Each one of these circles represents a namespace, conceptually of course. Inside each namespace we're going to place three classes, A, B, and C. Now each circle, though they have a similarly named class as the other one, they don't clash with each other. They're separate, and that's the idea of a namespace. When defining namespaces, we start out by coding the keyword namespace, followed by a name that we wish to give to the group. We can have as many classes as we want defined in a namespace. So in this example, we have namespace invoice group. There are some rules that govern how you can name a namespace, but we won't cover that here, and you can easily look it up on the internet. Now, once you define a class inside a namespace, the class now actually has a longer name, known as its fully qualified name. In our example, suppose we have class client in the namespace invoice group. The fully qualified name of class client is now invoice group.client. In Visual Studio, each time you create a project in the Visual C# environment, it uses the name that you give to your project as the name for the namespace, as we show here. So, the lesson here is give your projects meaningful names, as they'll end up becoming the name of your namespace for your entire project. So what are they for? What are namespaces for? In C#, you'll end up using different libraries. Libraries are pre-existing code that you can use in your own programs. And now let's show what happens when we happen to use two libraries, each with a similarly named class account. As you can see, we have two squares which represent one library. Class account exists in the purple library under namespace membership, and in the blue library we have class account, but it exists in a different namespace bank. And this allows us to distinguish which class account we wish to use. So if we want to use the account class from the membership library, we specify membership.account. If we want to use account from the bank namespace, we specify bank.account. Now here's just a few more facts. You can actually define a namespace inside another namespace, as we show here. And it's actually very straightforward. We won't be covering it anymore. When using a class defined in a namespace, we have to fully qualify the name. So in our example, we're using the console class from the system namespace. Now, optionally, if we know that this class, for example, class console, is not going to have a name that will conflict with other classes, we can actually specify a using directive. This enables us to simply use the class without having to specify the namespace in which it's contained. However, if there does happen to be a name clash, we can always fully qualify the class name, to resolve that issue. So that's all for this video. Thanks for learning. If you want to ask me more questions or want to contact me for a tutoring session, email me at sparkprogrammer@gmail.com or concord.spark.tutor@gmail.com. Have a good day.